Today I'm going to run through the top 5 reasons why you're not making progress with your calisthenics training, whether that's press handstands, static handstands, handstand push-ups, and everything in between. There's 5 very common reasons why you're not making gains. Let's kick off with number 1. So number 1 is the wrong progression. Now this could be you're doing things that are way too easy, way too hard, or not related to the skill. Now this is super common with the bodyweight strength skills and the handstand balance. A lot of the time is that we don't know enough progressions to fill the gaps between what you're doing. So I recently done a video on lines of progressions towards a skill. If there's 15 steps towards the skill from where you are to accomplishing you're working towards, but you only know 5 of them, the gap between those skills is going to be too big. So if I know the pike push-up, if I'm working towards the handstand push-up, I know how to do this, I can do this well, but the only progression I know after that is the full movement coming down and back up again with control. The gap is just too big between them, and I need to know what those other progressions are. We also tend to get stuck with the handstand balance. So a lot of people will think just repetitions in the middle of the floor is going to be the answer to catching a freestanding handstand, where ideally they should be up against the wall, doing those wall drills into that balance window with overbalance and underbalance drills, both back to wall, chest to wall. So they learn that balance window, and then when they take it away from the wall and kick up again, they have somewhere to kick to because they've created that balance window. So you'll see it at those easier beginner versions, but you'll also see it on the harder pointy end when I'm working to something like a one-arm handstand and I want to be able to hold that position, but I'm trying to throw the hand up in the air, go to fingertips when I'm not ready, but I just spend hundreds of repetitions trying to do the thing that I'm not quite ready for. Well, I should back off to a slightly easier variation, do quality training reps, and then add a little bit of play with those harder variations at the end. And then occasionally some people will just get stuck on an easier variation because they're not confident enough or don't believe they can step up to that next progression, even though they're overly ready for it. So a lot of people working the handstand balance drills will just sit on the wall for way too long and not attempt or practice the freestanding versions because they're scared or worried of hurting themselves. Now next is volume. Now often this is in 2 extremes. We have either way too much work on a certain skill or not enough work on a certain skill. So when we get into calisthenics training, we often want to do a muscle up, we want to do a planche, we want to do a front lever, we want to do a handstand, we want to do a handstand press, we want to do a handstand push up, we want to do a human flag, we want the splits, we want a pancake, and the list could go on and on and on. And when we try and juggle all those skills, we just don't have enough volume on any of those things. So trying to make some priorities, like working 1 or 2 skills at the same time, so a handstand push up maybe and a planche, focusing 80% on those 2 skills and 20% of time on other things is going to give you a lot more opportunity to get the volume correct. Because if we train all of those things at the same time and give each one the correct amount of volume, our total volume is going to be too much. And if we do the opposite and back off on everything, we're just not going to get enough volume of each one to make any progress. Number 3 is changing the program, progression, drill, exercise way too often. So I might be working on my handstand push-ups and I'm programmed either by myself or by my coach to do a freestanding handstand, lower down with control through your eccentric, come to the bottom, come back down, and then maybe some reps of pike push-ups to get some volume working. But then I'm sitting and scrolling on Instagram and I see a really cool back to wall handstand push-up exercise and I'm like, yes, I'm going to try that one. I'm going to stop doing this one, try that one. And then 2 days later, I see another cool one and I swap to that. It's not saying all of those are bad exercises. It's just there's a certain skill on training each element, each exercise, each drill, and you need to do enough work, enough repetitions to fine tune and understand the drill, and you just won't get that if you're chopping and changing between lots of different ones. And that can happen for a progression, for a drill, or the whole program. Now there's loads of awesome coaches, there's loads of material. If anything, we've got way too many options when it comes to programming, and all of them are really good. But the best program for you is the one that gels with you, you enjoy, and the one you're going to keep doing for time. Next we have TUT, time under tension. So time under tension is super important. So let's look at something like the press handstand. Now if I practice the eccentric press handstand, so I start in a handstand and then I'm going to come down slowly, I want enough time under tension through that full range of motion all the way until my tippy toes touch the floor. Maybe that took me 10 seconds to get down. So if I want 30 seconds time under tension per set, I need to do that another 2 repetitions to get that 30 seconds time under tension. Now, so I could look at it like that. I want 30 seconds per set, which is a good ballpark figure to go with all your sets. So let's say 30 seconds time under tension per set. But then we need to look at each repetition and make sure that we're not got any gaps in the movement. So if we look at that eccentric press handstand again, if my top part of the movement is really nice and I spend 8 seconds there, but the second half of the movement is 2 seconds, I have a gap. That 2 seconds is way too fast for that second half. So I need to change the progression, maybe up against the wall now, so that when I come down, I can go 5 seconds on the first half and then 5 seconds on the second half, showing control throughout that full range of motion. So I'm getting good time under tension throughout the full range of motion and make sure that I don't have any gaps. Now it could be that I have to fill those gaps with a second exercise. So I might need 2 or 3 exercises to tick the box so I don't have any gaps and I'm getting time under tension throughout the full pathway of the skill. When combined together is going to equal the real movement in a few weeks or months. And then the biggie, consistency. Now we could have consistency in a week. So I could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I could be training, resting, training, resting, training, which looks like a great plan, but in reality on my second week it turns into rest, training, training. And then if I'm doing that every other week, I start to look at my monthly consistent and how many sessions I'm getting in that 4-week block or that 6-week block. I'm not just getting enough consistency. So trying to aim for something like this might be too ambitious and it turns into something like this the week after. So being a little bit more realistic and going training, resting, or whatever works in your schedule, but being consistent with that week in, week out could be the answer to creating that all-important consistency. So getting enough sessions in per 4-week block, per 5-week block to keep the body progressing might be the way to go. That is going to be different for everyone, but this is the main reason that I don't normally program a deload week or deload sessions for my clients unless they get discomfort or pain, or if they've been super good and they're hitting all their training sessions week after week. But that's very unusual. Normally the dog is sick, work is crazy, the kids need something just gets in the way and you could get a natural deload. So let me know if you agree with this one. If there's any other that I missed off the list, I really wanted to make it about the top 5. And if you look at them, they all sort of relate to each other as well. If you want help with your training, check out my app. Link is down in the description. Good luck with your training and I'll speak to you next time.